In this video, we are talking about the competition factor, the competition between Universal and Disney regarding theme parks, and even beyond the theme parks with things like Hulu and things like that. There is a lot going on with these two companies. We have our good friend, Mr. Theme Park Wizard, joining us today. We're talking all about Universal versus Disney up next on OG55. Welcome aboard to another episode of OG55, where we're talking all about the competition factor, the relationship, the tension between these two companies, the dynamic. It's going to be a fascinating conversation. We are joined today by Mr. Theme Park Wizard. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Wizard.
Thanks for having me.
It is an absolute...
Oh, no, keep going.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Me on Theme Park Wizard. YouTube, Theme Parkwizard.shop, buy my merch, and find me on Twitter at theme_wizard. Woohoo!
Perfect. Well, Mr. Wizard, thank you. It is always a pleasure having you on the channel, talking some Universal with us today, sir. Thank you so much, brother.
And to introduce Wizard properly, especially if it's going to be any discussion involving Universal, we got to play the theme.
Do it.
Gotta do it.
Gotta do it.
Fantastic.
It's been an honor serving with you all.
Thank you, fellas.
Thank you, Optimus Prime. I do appreciate it.
And over here, who do we have? We have Mr. Vash Sky.
And now, the man with many titles, bringing you juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove, Mr. Vash Sky.
All right. I do appreciate it. I like it. Hey, look, listen. That intro, man, it just gets me every time. So I do appreciate that one. OG, thank you very much. Hey, if you want to go ahead and follow me, you can go ahead and do so right down there at Vash Sky. A lot of people have been following, which is nice. Nice to see. It's been great to have some discussion, to hear some, differing points of view, and some people have actually contributed to some of our discussions that we've had previously, both on Twitter and on YouTube, which we'll get into, I think, in the last 5-10 minutes of the show. OG, I think that's going to be very interesting. So keep the comments coming. And if you want to follow me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now, Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
And there's no doubt our attractions will drive kids out of their minds.
That's right.
Perfect. So this is interesting. We have special surprise. Actually, we have a sponsor for this video. Believe it or not, a sponsor for this video. I'm going to go ahead and play a little ad from the sponsors, and at the other end, we'll go ahead and continue our conversation. Here we go.
Let's do it.
But all you really need to know is this is who we give a fuck about, and this is who we don't give a fuck about. And you. So thank you for choosing Comcast. You don't have a choice. Hey, America, go fuck yourselves.
I'm just kidding.
That reminds me of. And I've been trying to get this audio. I'll send it to you just to make sure that nobody waxes for it. But that whole Dave Chappelle pop copy. When he says, "Well, why treat the customer this way? Why do this? Oh, cause F them. That's why." That kind of thing. We definitely gotta get that, but that was great. That was fantastic. That was fantastic.
I need that sponsor.
Yes.
I'm gonna reach out to them.
So let's go ahead and dive into the topics at hand today. We're going to start off because, our audience is mostly theme park kind of centered. We're going to start off with theme parks and this competition factor between Universal and Disney, and it's heating up. Universal is moving fast and furious, no pun intended, on the construction for Epic Universe. It's coming up just in a few years, and there's been a lot of talk about like what Disney's response might be or lack thereof. There's been just a lot of conversations around the competition factor and whether it's good for the industry, whether it's not so good, all that kind of stuff. Dre, I'm going to start with you. The competition factor in regards to Disney versus Universal, whether it be Orlando or even here in California. What are your overall thoughts in regards to this whole dynamic?
Competition is good for the consumer. I mean, that's kind of the traditionally the thought process there, and we have seen that it has been good for even Disney fans. I mean, when Islands of Adventure made its debut back in 1999 or whatever, a lot of people were expecting that theme park was going to, shake and rock the entire industry, and it didn't initially. However, it did build kind of a momentum towards that end with a refocus or a realignment of its branding and its promotion, so forth. And then, really, I mean, all that kind of changed when we get the debut of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter 1.0. That was a huge kind of shift of gravity, let's say, a gravitational shift around the Orlando market, and Disney, for the first time, kind of had to step it up a little bit in a way they hadn't for decades previous to that. So, and we've been kind of in this kind of pseudo theme park wars ever since, and it's been pretty fun to watch. Obviously, the latest iteration of this is going to be in the form of Epic Universe, and we kind of got, I don't know, let's say a little taste of what Disney's response might be, in the form of the kind of what if segment that we saw at the Parks panel at D23 Expo. A lot of people have been kind of saying some things about that and whether or not that's exactly what we saw. Some people called it kind of a focus group test of some of those concepts. It's kind of interesting because, well, Chapek and Josh D'Amaro have said that they're going to be customer or consumer focused, right? That they're going to take the consumers into account, their preferences and so forth when making decisions. And if you wanted to get their feedback, what better way than to debut something like the what if segment at their parks presentation? I just kind of find it interesting because even I think Jim Hill gave a interview with, I think, the Orlando Sentinel, saying that he'd be surprised if even a fourth of that comes to fruition. And I happen to agree with him. However, it still does, I think, all lend itself to what the question was, which was competition. It's good. And even on the doors of Epic Universe opening in 2025, we might be seeing competition even from Disney in regards to that.
And Mr. Theme Park Wizard, what are your thoughts on the competition factor regarding these two companies?
Well, first, I want to address Mr. Vashguy said competition segment, but it was like a competition, or what if segment, what if panel is what it was. Almost was like, oh, but yes, the competition is fantastic. I love it. I mean, you can see it. I don't take Disney surveys really. Well, they don't send me any. But in Universal surveys, they send me one every single time I leave the park, and I don't take all of them. But when I do, they always ask, what other theme parks in Southern California that passes to? They said I think one of the questions was something like, will Super Nintendo World entice you to go to Universal over Disney? Something almost directly of that line. I was like, wow, they're being really direct with that one. And then something like the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and get you to get a Disneyland pass. So they're like, they really want to know. But competition is great. I mean, it brought Cars Land, Pandora, Harry Potter. Well, Harry Potter brought those, and then Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, many great things. So we all win. But if they can build it fast enough, who knows when Disney will start or whatever they start in the future, at least in Disney World,
It kind of reminds me of the old roller coaster wars back in the 90s, right? Where, we got to have the tallest, fastest, all that kind of stuff. And you had all these, Cedar Parks and Six Flags going back and forth trying to get the tallest, fastest roller coaster until it just became King Dakar. just one element, top hat, down. That's it. You got the tallest, fastest, whatever. Hopefully it doesn't go to that point. But you can see that, that era brought a lot of classic attractions that roller coaster enthusiasts love today. And hopefully that's what we're seeing in the theme park area as well. Go ahead, OG.
Oh, well, I was going to say, now there's been the fan conversation is kind of around like, okay, so Universal is building Epic Universe, so Disney has to respond. So it's kind of this implied kind of narrative that like Universal's on the offense, right? And then Disney's on the defense. I was having a good conversation with a friend of mine on social media the other day, Lawyer of Dragons, and he sent me this message in regards to that whole dynamic. I'm going to kind of read you what he said, because I think I'm really curious what you guys think about this. This is kind of an interesting perspective on this whole conversation. I think it's very, very interesting. He says here, the two have played tennis. Universal had Wizarding World, so Walt Disney World did Fantasyland, and then upgraded the other parks over the last 5 years. Universal now has to respond because despite the social media bluster, there must be some concern they're losing out to someone else. You don't spend billions if you don't need to. Now he's sort of saying, well, this is the Epic Universe is the response to Disney. They're playing defense. What are you guys' thoughts on that? It's not an offensive move. It's more defensive, where Universal feels like they're kind of losing traction and they're spending billions because they feel like they have to. Is that kind of off base, or where do you stand with that, Dre?
Well, I would say to that, it's an interesting idea, because I think what Universal is trying to really accomplish here is market share. I think they're in the kind of the market share kind of game right now, which is why they have a product that maybe has similar levels of quality, but maybe priced a little bit more competitively, right? We definitely see that in kind of their hotel space, especially where their hotels are, sometimes half or even like a fourth or quarter of the price of what you might see at Walt Disney World, right? So it's kind of an interesting look at this, because you could say that they are investing billions in order to increase that market share via Epic Universe. Now, I don't think they're necessarily. I don't think the demand is quite the issue. I think they're looking at attaining that supply, and the only way I think they can reasonably obtain that is through a third gate, kind of a modern theme park, if you will. It's interesting. The Hollywood Reporter, they went into the kind of the negotiations between Comcast and Disney regarding Hulu. That's a very kind of convoluted thing, which we can get into. But one of the last quotes in that article was from Brian Roberts, who said, "Clearly there's one other company, Disney, that has a fabulous theme park business. We're gaining share. The ingenuity and the service and the customer satisfaction, it has never been better." Even in that kind of article going, talking about a streaming service, they're still talking about how the competition between these two companies has been, around for a while, maybe within another industry entirely. I would say that you could definitely look at it the way that Lawyer of Dragons is looking at it. But Brian Roberts definitely, I don't know, he's not afraid to turn on that money fire hose. He's not afraid to compete, and he feels he can compete, even with a new park.
Now, do you think it's fair to say, though, because like Chapek has made similar comments, the customer has never been happier, right? Is there a little bit of question marks in regards to Brian Roberts when he says kind of similar? He's an executive just like Chapek, and there's a little bit of propaganda there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is definitely a little bit of that going around. No question. Okay. We have heard from Chapek for years now. oh, the surveys never been higher, never been higher, even though they're in the process of transforming their business, putting things back in that they haven't maybe offered before, or maybe that they offered previously, took away, then offering back. It's this whole obviously you're moving in a direction with your business. If it was all happy-go-lucky, you wouldn't be moving at all. So it's kind of an interesting thing. But Wizard, what do you think? Is Brian Roberts accurate here?
Well, yeah. So due to the lawyer's comment, well, I think I tell you guys going on mute. Okay, now you're back. But yeah, due to the lawyers of Dragon's comment, they could. I don't know. I don't know if it's a response, because he said you don't need to spend billions if you don't have to. But I feel like if it was a direct response and they'd be only building, in like Orlando, but they built a whole theme park in Singapore that just opened, right? They have Super Nintendo World here. They're expanding their Malaysia park with the brand new announcements over there. So I feel like if you're responding to Disney World, you wouldn't be building everywhere. I just think this man's hungry. He wants to eat. He wants to eat. Come on, Dre. You must have a lion sound in there. Just hungry. Wait
a minute, I have something here.
You got like a dino, maybe?
Ah, man, I used to have dinos, but now you have the dinos. Okay, well, I'll get something. We'll get something out there. Yeah.
You people imagine him eating, and he's just going. I mean, look, all over the world: Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, Singapore, Beijing. That's the one. Beijing, then Singapore, Hollywood, Orlando, everywhere.
Yep.
Everywhere. They just keep eating. And, as I told Mr. OG over here, when, was about Southern California, right? They have 25 million or so people live here, right? Sure, Disney used to have a population of like 18 something, or attendance of 18 million. Universal has like 9.3. That's 16 million more people they can try to grab, whether they go to Disney or not. I don't think they care too much. I mean, they do say it in the surveys, but if I was Brian Roberts, I'd want to grab every single one of those 25 million people to get to Universal, even if they went to Disney. And that's what I'd be focusing on. And I think that's what he is focused on. Not really responding to Fantasyland upgrades or anything over there.
Okay, that's fair.
Epic Universe was a park that Universal envisioned themselves building 20 years ago, which is kind of interesting. I didn't quite know that, but I guess it's going back all the way to the Universal Escape days, which was quite interesting. And now they've kind of collected those things back and saying, hey, let's go ahead and do this. I think from Brian Roberts' standpoint, which I do agree with you, he is hungry. Let's see. That's it, right? I do think he is hungry, and I don't think Universal will be necessarily taken seriously if they don't at least match the output of Walt Disney World in the number of gates. I mean, it's kind of like the Disneyland problem, right? When people think about, are we going to go to Walt Disney World or we're going to go to Disneyland? 4 versus 2.
Right.
And
it's even like Disneyland versus Universal Hollywood, same idea. I mean, you have 2 parks versus no, that's
versus
definitely
the Hillside Park.
The Hillside Park, yeah, that's a valid point. Now, the next topic we're going to kind of dive into is are these rumors, and they're kind of a little bit more than rumors, because a lot of these trades are reporting on this that Zazzy, David Zaslav over there at Warner Brothers Discovery is actually kind of prepping. He kind of came in and is kind of prepping Warner Brothers to be sold off to Comcast. And that's been the plan since day one. He's going to flip WB like one of those house flipping shows on Discovery. Right?
He has a lot of experience.
He's got all the experience. He's going to flip it, But here's the thing. This is actually kind of, look, from Comcast perspective, this would be a checkmate, brilliant move. And I've been saying this for a long time. Universal has a major IP problem. They got some great IP. Look, Minions the last Minion movie crushed it at the box office, did very well, very, very well. Jurassic World is a very popular franchise, and I think it will be. That's an evergreen kind of thing, but Universal doesn't really have a lot of their own mega franchises. They're just a handful. And when it comes to their theme parks, they're constantly renting, right? They're constantly licensing out and renting other people's stuff. I think one of the weaknesses at Universal is that they don't have their own in-house material. It's on short supply. Buying Warner Brothers would fix that overnight. Dre, what are your thoughts on the possibility of Comcast and Warner Brothers kind of merging and becoming this really, honestly, equivalent to the Walt Disney Company at that point? What are your thoughts on this?
It would be like a megacorp, honestly. I don't even know if it would be equivalent to Disney. I think it would be even bigger. I mean, that's a serious entity. And honestly, I mean, like the first thing that comes to my mind is just antitrust issues, is regulatory issues regarding the merger of these two brands. Now, we have heard that there have been, let's say, even with the Warner Brothers Discovery move, there have been, Democrats and Congress who were kind of like, whoa, why did we let this deal go through? Isn't this eroding some competitive practices between these brands and stuff like that? Isn't this eroding competition for the consumer? Like, they're voicing that now. The idea that you would take that entity, which is already getting some heat from people in Congress now, and then merge that with a Comcast. I mean, that's really crazy. That's really some big stuff. I think we were kind of going back and forth, OG and Wizard. If you want to jump in, you can. We were kind of going over what if this merger were to take place, what either company would be forced to sell off in order to make this a reality, in order so that they don't own any one of these verticals.
I think
Wizard, what do you think about that?
all the I think they'd want to do like Disney did and kind of sell up all the news, like the Fox. They sold up all the Fox News and stuff. I think that they'd want to I think there's already rumors of CNN becoming its own thing or dying off or something. So I think they'd want to get all
CNN
the political stuff out. Yeah, CNN
Come on, there you go.
I feel like they'd get rid of all like the because obviously you can't really put CNN as a ride, right?
That'd be terrifying.
That'd be a crazy roller coaster right there.
Insane. You can't do that. So I had to get rid of all of that. Even I don't know, sports is pretty big because they do the Olympics. So I feel like they want to have some type of sports. But any even I'd say the what she OG brought up with the house flipping and all that real TV, reality TV stuff from Discovery. I had to get rid of all that and spin it off into something else because Comcast doesn't do that. They don't need that. They can just sell it off to someone else. What they need, what they need is those to keep those big IPs, right? They have Harry Potter, they'd like own it. That'd be theirs. They'd pay whatever they got to do. The first thing I do is I do whatever I had to do to Six Flags to get the DC rights back. I don't know how that works, but I'll Six Flags stock is obviously going down. They need some money, so I'll pay them whatever I got to pay them to snag those DC rights back, because obviously it's not helping their attendance, so they don't need them. and then I immediately put a massive DC land and Epic Universe, and then here in Hollywood, and just like we did the Harry Potter, put DC everywhere. Ooh, a proper Batman ride. Wow. That was great.
I'm telling you, Ethan, that would be amazing. Now, your CNN ride would be terrifying. Can you imagine an animatronic of this guy?
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. They could... OG, they could really realistically only play that during Halloween, because that is a very scary thing.
That's scary.
He'd be the host of the Terror Tram.
Exactly. The Terror Tram. You could only bust that out in Halloween Horror Nights right there.
100%.
But man, this Warner IP, I've always been in love with the Warner IP. The Looney Tunes and stuff are fantastic characters. They are really kind of like the cousins of Mickey, Donald, and Goofy in a lot of ways. A little edgier, but in that same kind of vein. And they've really been underutilized for decades and decades and decades. Really, ever since Time Warner and AOL merged back in, I think it was like 2000. They've really underutilized these characters. They're fantastic. When Warner is working on all cylinders and doing the right thing, they do fantastic stuff. Like we saw in the 90s when we had Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, Tasmania. These were fantastic shows. They were great for kids, but the adults got a lot out of it too, right? And that's the kind of stuff that they could do again if they were run by the right person. And you know what? Honestly, I think Brian Roberts has done a good job at Universal, and I think that he would respect this IP, these franchises, and kind of bring Warner to its former glory, you know. And then it would just open up the door for all kinds of theme park stuff. They could with the purchase of or with the merger of Warner Brothers, they can start to kind of adjust the Hollywood Universal Hollywood lot and maybe offload some of those sound stages and on the Universal Hollywood lot to make more theme park and kind of utilize the Warner Brother lot for more of the studio stuff. That would really open up the theme park over there, which would be a huge boon for them. There's just a lot of potential with this move. I'm really rooting for it. It probably won't get approved in terms of like just these two companies as is merging. I agree with you, fellas. Both of these companies will have to offload stuff. A lot of it's going to be probably with the cable and television. There's major monopoly and antitrust issues in that arena with, like they would have CNN, MSNBC, CNBC. There's just too much. So I think a lot of that would be offloaded. But man, if they can work this out, you want to talk about making Disney nervous. Epic Universe would be nothing. I mean, this move would make Disney crap their pants. Absolutely crap their pants.
Well, also, it would be huge, right? Apparently, Brian Roberts is already meeting with the Warner Brother Discovery guys. Now, apparently, it was under the auspices of kind of a welcoming kind of party there. But, let's be honest. And allegedly, they're not supposed to talk about any hint of a merger until like 2024, but come on, guys. It would be. I think we would all be. Naive to believe that they're not having some kind of conversations behind the scenes. That those conversations are taking place, if in fact they are, and I think that might be where these kind of rumors are emanating from. To be honest with you, they're kind of, putting it out there and kind of seeing whether or not the public would actually go along with something like that. I think to your point, OG, I think Jim Shull talked about the idea of, famous Imagineer, done work for Disney and Universal Creative before. He was talking about how, hey, the Warner lot right next to the Universal lot over there in Hollywood, couldn't you offload some things? So that's kind of where that idea was coming from, and I do agree. That sounds pretty appetizing for sure. But it's interesting. Both of you talked about incorporating Looney Tunes, incorporating DC. That idea is not a new one. It's actually quite an old one, and it goes back to the early 90s when they were looking for concepts for Islands of Adventure back in the day. Got to give credit to Review Time here, who made this video. This is kind of going into the Universal Escape and how that branding wasn't necessarily successful for them, for their resort, right? Doesn't really communicate that there's two parks and so forth, and they had some problems with that. But during that video, I saw this little segment. I thought it was going to be perfect for this video. So I'll play this for you, and this might give you an idea of what if,
The major company Universal was looking to partner with was Warner Brothers, allowing them access to their back catalogue of Looney Tunes and other cartoon characters, as well as the film versions of the DC Comics characters, such as Batman, giving a wider family appeal than the Universal film franchises, with the Universal Park seen at the time as a place for teenagers and adults, rather than the whole family. The Warner Brothers characters and lands would have been combined with a Dr. Seuss land, as well as a classic comic strip land, though those final two might sound a little more familiar to anyone who's been to Islands
Eventually
of Adventure.
built
Cartoon World is big enough of an idea for an entire future video, but ultimately, Universal and Warner Brothers couldn't come to an agreement over licensing fees for their characters. Warner Brothers refused to budge on an 8% royalty, and even though over 2 years of design work had gone into the project, the head of MCA, the then owner of Universal Studios, decided to stop any further work on the agreement, with a tasteful call to the executives at Warner Brothers, where he told them in choice words, "We don't need your effing characters."
So that didn't take place, but that was 2 years of development of these ideas and going forward and all that. Completely stopped because they could not come up with an agreement. Now, eventually, they do come to some agreement for the Harry Potter rights and so forth, so they do kind of work together there eventually. But, I mean, just imagine if they had that full catalog to work with. I mean, there's a lot of places you can go with that.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people have brought up, like on social media and stuff, okay, well, Six Flags, I think Ethan, you mentioned it as well, actually. Six Flags has the rights for the park rights for the DC and I think even the Looney Tunes characters. Well, we all know the current CEO of Six Flags is cheap as fuck. Okay, he is cheap as fuck, and they have to pay Warner to maintain those rights. Well, I could easily see this guy this new CEO who's super cheap going, you know what? Do we really need them? Do we really need to pay Warner millions to use these characters? You know, now's the time. I mean, I would seriously, I mean, now's the time to reach out, I think, to Six Flags and see if they can pull those rights back, because I think this new CEO, being as cheap as he is, I don't know, he might actually bite. You never know.
And also, if they do buy him everything and they try to get the rights and Six Flags refuses, well, you know what? I just raise up the licensing fee like to like 100 million, and then they invite.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers has some safety nets put in order to prevent that from happening. But look, listen, it's quite interesting. It's quite an interesting idea. You know, to look, I think there is a chance. To your point, OG, I think Salim he's pretty cheap. And, you know, oh man, that's another video.
That's if they even survive. I mean, the stock price keeps dropping every single day. So who knows what Six Flags will be like when the merger goes through.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, that's another thing too. Now, unfortunately, that's another video that we got to make someday. Yeah, Wizard. Over the over kind of the practices going on at Six Flags right now. I mean, apparently El Toro, you know, that kind of whole thing, and apparently they weren't maintaining that attraction, which speaks to if you're not putting in the effort and money maintaining that kind of attraction, are you necessarily maintaining other attractions? You know, does that speak to something else going on? I think Six Flags is kind of hurting, and I think the entire industry, it might be hurting as well. We've seen some slowdowns in the kind of the month of September. We've seen now new deals for hotel stays at Disneyland Resort during the holiday period, right? Apparently, Walmart, Target, Kohl's, Amazon, they're canceling billions and billions of dollars of inventory orders right before the very profitable Christmas season. The Fed just rose the rates, I think, 0.75%, I believe. So it's kind of like all these things.
And we've seen some new deals at Universal Studios Hollywood's hotel. Oh, wait, there is none.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, so I think Brian Roberts definitely wants to be a theme park player. We just talked about how they're investing billions into Epic Universe. But to your point, OG, and you said it over and over again, the thing that's holding them back is that IP. Well, now you have kind of an economy kind of on the downslope a little bit. You have investors or different power players within these industries and companies looking to make deals. I don't know, man. I mean, 2024. I could see it. I could see some things working out here in Comcast's favor, which, if that deal were to happen, I mean, Disney now has enemy number one. And not just one industry, but all of them.
Big time. Absolutely big time. And I got to be completely real with you. Like, one of the main reasons why I'm not super drawn to the Universal parks is because I don't really connect with any of their IPs, at least none of the current IPs. I love the old school Universal stuff, like Back to the Future and what have you, but a lot of the new stuff I'm not too into. I'm not really into Minions and all that. But if they buy Warner and we get attractions on, Wizarding World level quality based around those Warner characters, oh man, that would be enough for me to get a Universal AP. I'm telling you right now, OG would get a Universal AP. Oh, dude, that would do it for me. I would absolutely do
I mean, come on. I can see it on the backlot right now. Metropolis, and then Gotham. And then he can cross between the two. Oh, so cool.
Well, look at Wizarding World, right? Take, for example, let's look at like Diagon Alley. Let's do a little Blue Sky just for fun, right?
Sure.
Look at Wizarding World or Diagon Alley. These kind of like these very kind of detailed
hyper-immersive worlds.
Hyper-immersive and kind of like a Diagon Alley is kind of a darker kind of tone. So is the original Wizarding World, right? It's kind of darker. Imagine a Gotham. You're walking through these little alleyways and little streets, and it's just these massive skyscrapers on each side. It would just be so surreal. And Batman comes out. You got Joker, and it's Universal, so they can get a little edgier. They can really, do a lot that maybe Disney can't do in that arena. I'm telling you, that would be a top notch. Oh God, I would absolutely fall in love with that. I think it'd be fantastic. Fantastic.
Man,
the things they could do with it.
To bring like a Tim Burton aesthetic of Gotham to life, I mean, that would be like, good Lord. I mean, that's got money written all over it, folks. Come on. No, I could totally see it. And by the way, to all the people who are looking for original attractions, okay, this is one of the reasons why they don't make original attractions anymore, is because there's so much upside with IP, just like OG said. He's like, hey, I would be willing to get a Universal, AP if the IP was correct. Well, yeah, there you go. That's your reasons why. But there's so much. I mean, there's so much potential here. Like you said, Metropolis, a Gotham, Looney Tunes. I mean, they already had plans and designs for a Looney Tunes land going back to Islands of Adventure back in the early 90s. Let's dust those off or fast and get those quickly implemented, not unlike Epic Universe itself is at this current moment.
Don't forget, Peacock. So many shows to put on Peacock. Harry Potter shows, new Looney Tunes shows, whatever they like proper that could level up to maybe get it to Disney Plus level if they like quality stuff in there.
Well, here's an interesting thing. Do you think they would keep the Peacock brand, or they would just invest all of it into the HBO Plus HBO brand?
Ooh.
Yeah, maybe probably HBO because of name recognition. But either way, whatever streaming service is.
Especially
if you include the HBO stuff like the House of the Dragon and the Game of Thrones, plus the Universal stuff, like maybe like a Jurassic World TV series, like woo-wee! That will take down Netflix.
No, that would be huge.
Game of Thrones land. There you go,
Oh, yeah. I'll be there.
Now, there's some things you can bring to life and some things you can't, right? To be fair. However, Universal's edgy,
Look,
I think
a ride just based on dragons would be amazing.
Oh,
that'd be sick. That'd be awesome.
Well, the Game of Thrones world, it would be incredible. The aesthetics, and like you said, Ethan, with the dragons and all that mythology kind of weaved in there, that would be such a fantastic, not even just a land. You can build an entire theme park around Game of Thrones. I mean, that would just be sick. I'm telling you, this merger, I mean, because look, this isn't like a bunch of like fan sites reporting this. This is like the Hollywood trades.
Yeah.
So they don't usually just pick things out of thin air. This is coming from somewhere.
Yeah, the inside the magic.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not inside the magic.
Not inside the
Exactly.
magic.
So I do think that there is definitely some level of talk, some level of interest there between these two parties. Now, look, does that mean it's going to happen for sure? Absolutely not. I mean, there were some moments in time where it was like kind of getting questionable if Disney was even going to acquire Fox. These things are very, very precarious. You never know. One thing can really change the trajectory and some other company might snatch it. You never know. But I'm telling you, Brian Roberts should really, really, really fight hard to get that company. I made a video, actually, I think it was over a year ago, saying, I think it was around the time that the Discovery Warner merger was announced. I said that Universal really dropped the ball on that. They should have made a move for Warner. Well, now it's looking like it's not too late, and that might actually happen. That might have been the 4D chess from day one. I'm telling you that's
Disney can help out too with their buyout of Hulu they want to do. I'm sure that will provide a nice little boost to however much it will cost to buy out Warner Brothers Discovery.
Well, and actually that was you wanted to discuss the Hulu thing, and that's a great segue, right?
That is a great segue, because if you look at it, it's quite interesting. Now, again, there is this kind of, let me see if I can find it here. There is this kind of mandatory deal in place in which Disney has to basically buy out Universal's stake in the Hulu deal, which originally started as kind of a three-way deal between 20th Century Fox, Disney, and NBC Universal. Well, when Disney acquired 20th Century Fox, well, that kind of changed the dynamic, as one could expect. And apparently, going back to that deal, even in 2019, NBC Universal was like, well, hey, wait a minute, can we buy your guys' remaining stake now that this deal is kind of is the kind of the vision for this deal is no longer in place, right? It was supposed to be a three-way split. Now that's not. Disney declined, as they do, but they did set up a kind of agreement where Disney would basically be mandated to purchase NBC Universal's stake. And at the same time, NBC Universal would still have some control over that valuation, in that they'd be looking out for their kind of fiduciary interests, let's say. And so it's been kind of an interesting thing going back and forth. NBC Universal wanted Disney to maintain the Hulu branding, for instance, over the Star branding that Disney went with when it came to its foreign and international markets. They actually went to court over this, and Disney eventually won, but it was kind of like, well, wait a minute, the valuation of this brand would be much higher if they did go with the Hulu branding. But Disney obviously didn't want to do that because, well, now that's more that they would have to buy out in 2024 when that deal actually came up. Chapek has even said too, I think in previous videos we've talked about how why like Hulu isn't integrated into Disney Plus at this very moment, and he has stated, hey, look, it's NBC Universal. As long as they're kind of attached to this brand, we're not going to see any integration towards that end. However, if we do buy out that stake, then we can kind of see these integrations move forward. I have said before that the ARPU for Hulu is kind of the envy of the streaming world. And now we have a valuation. It looks like the valuation that they're looking at is Hulu's fair market value. Disney has guaranteed a sale price that would value Hulu at a minimum of $27.5 billion and make Comcast stake worth at least $9 billion. So no matter what, Comcast might be looking at a check of about $9 billion coming up here in 2024. And then what happens there is kind of the question. Do you integrate Hulu entirely into Disney Plus? Maybe get rid of the Hulu app on its own, increase the ARPU for all of those brands as they're kind of merged and integrated within? Do you keep Hulu to the side there? Does Comcast get any more cash out of this deal than they have gotten so far? If Chapek is really serious about making this deal happen sooner than 2024, that 2024 deadline, it's kind of a fascinating back and forth thing.
It is. No, it is fascinating. And you know, Brian Roberts, you know, CEO of Comcast Universal, has been, I would say kind of miffed ever since he kind of lost Disney back in I think it was 2005, right?
Yep.
When he wanted to go after, he made a move for Comcast to purchase Disney back in 2005. And that was back when the whole thing with SaveDisney.com and Michael Eisner was going through a lot of turmoil, and that whole thing fell through. And Brian Roberts has been kind of, I don't know, he got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder kind of ever since. I'm telling you, he's not gonna give Disney an easy time with this Hulu stuff. Okay, he is not gonna give them an easy ride. This is gonna be. I know a lot of fans are sleeping on this thing. Especially in our space, because our space focuses mostly on theme parks. But keep an eye on the Hulu stuff. This is gonna be battle royale.
It is, and the article even alludes to that it's going to be a tumultuous kind of negotiation process. Brian Roberts is obviously looking to get as much valuation as he can out of the deal, even though streaming services have kind of declined in terms of the demand, right, in terms of their valuations, following the Netflix kind of thing and so forth. And the article even makes reference to future plans for each of these companies. They want to kind of what they kind of want to do, not just in the streaming space, but within their own kind of organizations, and how this might kind of hold a lot of those things up. It's going to be kind of a fascinating thing. But to Wizards' credit, though, the other deal coming up in 2024 is the kind of acquisition deadline, or I'm sorry, the acquisition. I guess it would be a deadline between Warner's and Discovery, right? So it's if Comcast can negotiate that deal, right? If Brian Roberts can negotiate maybe a merger there while also negotiating this deal, that's, we could be looking at $10 billion that they could be applying towards whatever deal that Zaslav wants to make. I mean, this is a very interesting thing for sure.
A lot of moving pieces. What are your overall thoughts, Mr. Wizard?
I love that's very interesting. You have Mr. Lex Luthor himself, Brian Roberts. He's like a Lex Luthor. Look at him. He's white and he has the bald head almost. He's a businessman. Oh boy. I have a question. Let's say he pulled all this off, right? He got the Comcast, the Warner Brothers. Would he be as great in terms of acquisitions as Bob Iger? Better or the same or less?
Well, I think you would. Okay, the deal itself would be an incredible feat, absolutely. But I really couldn't say until we saw how he handled the studio and all that once it was purchased. Because look, I'll be real with you. I did many videos with Dre, and I think even with Alia, talking about how, and this was when David Zaslav, was just coming in. He announced the merger between Discovery and Warner, and I was telling these guys oh man, this guy David, he gets it. Zazzy gets it. I wish we had a guy like him running Disney. Well, now I don't want him anywhere near Disney.
Exactly.
So he made the deal, and he did a fantastic job at that deal. But once he got in there, he sucked. Okay, he was like a turd in a diaper being juggled by a skunk. It just stunk. Okay, it was horrible. So you have to take
unless did he, because if this was his goal the whole time, do you think maybe he did all this stuff on purpose to decrease the valuation so it would be easier for Universal to swallow them up?
See, that's the big allegation right there. Mm-hmm.
Because what if he really knows what he's doing, but he's like, no, I want to make this as easy as Universal as possible. I just want to flip it. So let me just do some things that'll get some bad headlines and tank the stock a little bit, but that way it makes it easier for Universal to come on in, and we can all go on a merry way.
Did Zaslav strategically position the Warner Brothers Discovery entity in a position to be acquired? The art, some of the trades in the articles do kind of allude to that. Hey, wait a minute, are you really running this for the future, or are you running this just to be acquired? Are you running just for the short term? It's an interesting idea. Apparently there was a good quote from this article here. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So all of these issues pale next to the biggest question hovering over any top job at Warner Brothers Discovery. How long will this gig last? The company is grappling with that heavy debt load and skeptical investors. One former Zaslav executive recently received a letter from a due diligence firm on behalf of an unspecified client asking for his evaluation of Zaslav's leadership style, strategic plans, and likelihood of success. That could suggest various possibilities. A potential acquirer digging around, a dissident shareholder sniffing for weaknesses, a hedge fund trying to place a bet, so much uncertainty. So it's like, even internally, they kind of have, there's some worry there amongst investors, amongst people who kind of bought into this kind of idea that this entity was going to be extremely successful. And now that it's gotten kind of rocky, people are kind of like, is Zaslav really the guy? Or if Zaslav is the guy, is he just setting up another deal? Interesting thing. It's an interesting thing.
Interesting. Now, before we move on to our last and final topic, I just want to say that this is funny. Like, we're talking a lot about Universal and Disney, and it's interesting to me. It's always been interesting to me, kind of like that dynamic between the two fandoms. Like, Disney and like that whole fandom is more, it's magic, it's, and then Universal a little edgier, right? A little more edgy, a little more adult. Little comedy here, but this is Universal fans to Disney fans. Okay, this is what Universal fans addressing Disney fans. Here we go.
Don't you climb trees? No, motherfucker, we got wheels and shit. Take your Peter Pan ass and make some peanut butter or some shit.
I told you, I love Cat Williams. Any excuse to use the audio, I will do it.
Cat Williams, that is so funny.
Absolutely love him. So let's go on to our next topic. Well, this is actually kind of a follow-up to a video.
I like this comment.
Yes. This is a follow-up to a video Dre and I did the other day about this whole Disneyland Forward City of Anaheim thing, right? And in our video, we actually asked the audience, like, how many of these council members are up for re-election this year? Because that makes a difference in regards to Disney and their strategy, and why maybe they're waiting until 2023. Well, a friend of the channel, his name is Tyler. He goes by Wraith Kelso. He wrote in the comments this. Okay, you asked the audience, and I'm a politics junkie. Anaheim City Council appears to be 6 council members who are elected by districts, and the mayor is at large. The entire city votes. Council members Gloria May, District 2, Independent, Jose Moreno, District 3, Democrat, and Trevor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem, District 6, Republican, are all up for election this year, okay? And the mayor's seat is up this year anyway. So Harry Sidhu, resigning didn't affect that. Okay, Dre, I'm gonna start with you, man. We did this video the other day. Now we know who's up for whose seats are up for re-election. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, this is kind of very interesting, right? Because we were kind of wondering what would the outcome of the election be, following this timeline where Disneyland Forward might be put to the 2023 burner and not the 2022 burner, right? We were kind of like wondering what could the potential ramifications be. And Wraith Kelso, who's been a friend of the channel, even has been on the channel at various times for a number of years, comes in with the goods. He comes in with the receipts. So I just have to start out by thanking him sincerely for this. We were kind of wondering what this was, and sure enough, our viewers, who I always say are, a step above if you watch any of our shows, that includes Wizards as well. They came in with the goods. This is interesting. The name that sticks out here, and it's kind of the one that we kind of like, dialed in on, was Jose Moreno.
Get him out of there.
Yes. Yeah, there's a reason why, folks. Wizard had that comment right now. And he has been very, I don't want to say anti-business, but anti-business when it comes to certain investment in the Anaheim region. He was also the one that I believe forwarded the gate tax for Disney. He's been kind of a thorn in their side for quite a while now. And think about it. If you're coming up with this proposal that is Disneyland Forward, and you've got really basically one shot to do it, and he might be the deciding vote, is it better to go forward with that proposal within this electorate or with this makeup of the city council, or you wait for the next makeup of this incoming city council, especially with elections being in November? I don't know. I can kind of see Disney's point here where it's like, hey, if Jose's out, and by the way, Wraith also suggested that Jose Moreno is term limited this election cycle. So he can't, he will no longer be part of the city council no matter what happens in
Good, the little
2023.
shithead can get out of there.
Exactly. So I can kind of see their point. Wizard, go ahead.
Go ahead, Wizard.
My goodness, this guy has. I remember reading about this guy on Mice Chat, or the Mice Age, all the way back with the Eastern Gateway, and oppose.
Oh, really?
He's what we call here in urban planning talk a NIMBY, not in my backyard. That's a block every development and block every project they try to do. I hate those guys. Those guys single-handedly, in housing speak, make housing go up because they block all this new housing projects. This guy is blocking new Disneyland development, which is blocking new tax dollars from Anaheim, and for no reason. I feel like he did the same reason that Newsom kept Disneyland closed, because he doesn't like Disney, because he's just a sad child. I don't know. But this guy, he may be for the people, but him and Unite Here Local 11 aren't for the people, because they block and hate everything. Even Unite Here, that union thing, even tries to block hotels here in Los Angeles. Like, why would you try to do that if you're for the people, you union asshat?
Yeah, no, Ethan, well said, brother. Well said. No, I mean, Jose Moreno has been, like you fellas have said, a thorn in Disney's side for years, and it's almost like just blocking the block. Just it's like this, like, almost like a vendetta for whatever reason. So anyone that replaces Moreno is really, you can't go anywhere but up, in my opinion. I mean,
it's already at rock bottom.
Right. It's kind of like when we had Mayor Tom Tate. I mean, anybody would have been better than him. And, so, hey, look, we got a more pro-Disney mayor with Harry Sadu. Now, there was other issues with him, though. That didn't work out so great, but to say the least. But I think with this, whoever replaces, I think Jose Moreno, I think that it'll be a huge improvement to what we had before. And I think it's smart on Disney to definitely wait until he's out of there. Wait till 2023 after the election, and then you have a way better chance of getting Disneyland Forward approved. So I think it's a good move. It's a smart move, and we'll see how it pans out.
It's an interesting kind of move, too. I did not know that Jose Moreno was one of the council members who was most against the Eastern Gateway project. Obviously, Disney would take notes on that, right? They don't have short memories. They would remember something like that. And look, I think there was enough momentum following the shutdowns and subsequent reopenings that there was real momentum for a project like Disneyland Forward to get approved. But with the FBI thing and so forth kind of stalling them a little bit, I think Disney is hedging its bets, saying, okay, we really want this to be approved, but with this kind of atmosphere that could create steam for people like Moreno to vote down this project. Do we wait? Have those people leave, new election cycle, right on the docket for the beginning of 2023, and really place our bets there. And it looks like that is what they're doing. And to be honest,
it's not even that far away. It's only like 2 months, November, and then three or four till the new year. You're not like you have to wait that long anyway.
Exactly. It sounds like they know what they're doing, because that was the one thing that I was kind of questioning. And maybe my questions were, I didn't quite know enough to understand what was really going on here, and it looks like we may have cracked this case for sure.
Yeah, and I want to give just another shout out to Tyler. He goes by Wraith Kelso. He's on Twitter, which is at Wraith Kelso. You can see it right there on the screen. Follow him on Twitter. He is phenomenal. He is a friend of the channel, and like Dre said, he's actually been on the channel before. He's a big theme park guy. He loves Marvel and Star Wars. Really, really fun dude, and you definitely give him a follow on the Twitters. But gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. We had a great time. Mr. Wizard, theme park wizard. Welcome back, brother. And I love when you hold up your mic. You look like a sports announcer for ESPN. Doesn't he?
Look at that. And Kobe with the fadeaway 3. Bang!
ESPN, give this guy a call. What are you doing? Exactly, right? Exactly. I can hear the applause right back there right now. You see? They're doing it.
Mr. Wizard, if you can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media and let them know of your merch store, sir.
You can find me on Theme Park Wizard on YouTube, Theme_Park Wizard on Instagram, Theme_Wizard on Twitter. If you want to buy this lovely Halloween shirt, you can go on themeparkwizard.shop. There's a 20% discount on everything through November 1st. You just got to use TPW20 at the end of your purchase. How cool!
Look at this guy, man. This is the thing I love about you, Ethan, is that you got the hustle, man. You got the hustle, the energy. I love it, dude. I love it.
Keep grinding.
It is fantastic. Well, there you go. There you go. There's the rim shot right there. There you see, he's at the game right there. That's what that is.
There you go. There we go. And right over here, we got our producer Dre, Vash Guy, host of Freshly Squeezed. As always, sir, it was an absolute honor and pleasure having you on, joining the channel today, talking shop, Universal, Disney. A really fascinating conversation today. If you can remind everybody at home where they can find you on social media, sir.
Hey, best place to find me is going to be at Vash Guy on Twitter. It's right down there. Just go ahead and type in the Twitters, as OG55 has said here. As Christine Waistlines McCarthy would say, for all the robust discussion. OG, you got a little drop for me for
oh yeah,
Christine
I do. For Christine Waistlines McCarthy, I definitely have a drop for you.
And there's the biggest bargain of all.
I love it. The showcase is dying right now in the premiere. I can see it right there. But you can go ahead and find me there. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. Let's see which one. Yeah, here we go.
Really spectacular. Spared no expense.
There you go. Fantastic.
Perfect. I want to thank you all so much for watching today. Comment down below with all your thoughts in regards to the competition factor between Disney and Universal, the theme park wars, the possibility of Comcast, Universal merging with Warner Brothers Discovery. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on this whole thing with the city council in Anaheim? We would love to hear from you. Again, I want to thank everybody. The last 6 years of support has been incredible. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, except Jose Moreno. But everyone else,
Yeah, exactly.
hope you have a wonderful evening. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye, everybody.